Hey, count.
The following is an archived 30-Minute Worlds episode from our backlog, originally recorded December 10th, 1941. It is, of course, a relic of its time, and some of the more creative views espoused by the hosts we should remind you, of course, a relic of a time when the world was very different than it is today. And without further ado, 30-Minute World's classic Criterion Collection presents Episode 316.
Hey, boys, I hear they're letting Italians join the armed forces now.
I just hope they can't vote.
Let's go down to the picture show and throw peanuts at them until they learn their lesson.
Now, let's get back into the show, boys. First of all, let's go over our rules. No broads. Absolutely no broads.
Zero broads.
This is a dudes rock only setting.
Dames, broads, Oriental.
What are others?
All right. Hey, cut, Walter. No, hold on. Cut.
What? It was 1941. Pearl Harbor had just happened.
We can't play this. We can't play this.
That's right. Anti-Italian, that's okay. Anti-Polak, that's borderline.
We're gonna lose all of our money for this podcast.
Yeah.
What a great life to get canceled for 15 seconds of fake racism on a podcast.
Main sponsor is the Sopranos Reddit. We'll never make it.
La Pasta Nacional.
Ironically, are in the pocket of the current government of China.
Sponsors of 30-Minute Worlds: the Gambino crime family, the Planters Peanut Corporation,
and don't bring the name up on the show. I don't want our listeners to know that a giant peanut with money controls the banks.
Anywho,
don't worry, I censored it. I censored it.
Yeah, Belvin is back after a long absence of a successful burgeoning comedy career. Mm-hmm. Tell us about that, Belvin.
It's so successful it never stops burgeoning, it feels like.
Yeah, I've just been living in famous comedians' driveways. And when they get in the car to do their drives, I give them moist towelettes and little snacks. And they told me at some point I'd make it.
And this is translated to financial gain for you?
No, I tried Louis C.K. first, and that didn't go anywhere.
It's a shame about old Bill Murray, because he seemed like he was really panning out.
He took money from me.
Yeah, he would buy 40s and
yeah, for cocaine in 40s.
Yeah, you brought him Miller High Life 40s by the hour.
Yeah, so my internship didn't go great, so I've returned in disgrace to the podcast.
Oh, well, welcome back, brother. Glad to have you. It's been a minute, listeners. It's definitely not because we got, scheduling fucked up or we got lazy or we stopped wanting to record.
Anytime there's a problem with the podcast, we want you guys to internalize it and think that you've done something wrong. That's really, I think, the path that we as a company or corporation want to stress and emphasize. We're not at fault here. When you listen to our podcast, you are consenting to have signed a no-fault clause for late delivery of the podcast episodes. That's just how a lot of companies do business.
You're also and maybe you're also agreeing to buy a subscription to a magazine for the next 3 years.
Yeah.
We're actually being sponsored by Cosmo now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want to learn how to get the boys and lose weight?
Yeah. At
least
it's not.
You're also at fault legally for a lot of the stuff that we do. I mean, you would be surprised what they can nail you guys for. It's really artful what we've done.
That comment I made earlier about Orientals, I am facing a $5 million lawsuit.
That was a recording from 1941. The hosts were completely different.
And all of you are now at fault also.
That was your grandfather speaking. He had some salty opinions.
That's what happened.
Yeah, I really wish that I'd been there at the dawn of podcasts in the late 1930s, early 1940s, where podcasts alone helped cow the threat of a Nazi threat in Europe.
Ended the war and brought the economy back, baby.
I mean, Fireside Chats, like, it was a podcast, right? Pretty much.
Yeah. That's
basically
actually incredibly true.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we have the same cultural impact as FDR on the American community.
And in case you've forgotten what the deal of our podcast is, us dipshits build a fantasy or sci-fi world. In 30 minutes, one of our hosts is going to be the lore lad who gets absolute creative control, and they will have to juggle 3 random prompt words to assist in the creation of this fantastical setting. The lore lad for today is our returning guest and host, Belvin.
Hi.
Welcome back.
Wait. Since when has he been a guest?
I don't know. I flubbed that. We'll cut it out.
No, Belvin hasn't been on enough.
I don't know.
We keep changing the criteria for host, so Belvin is actually technically not a host of the
Belvin.
podcast. Yeah. He's just our longest running guest and friend of the pod, Belvin.
Look, he's a dwarf host. Okay? He's not one of the major hosts. He's a dwarf host.
Like a dwarf planet.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, exactly.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Your words, gentlemen.
Boyos, in my power as powerful guest, I would like to hear your words that I will use.
Oh, should we introduce ourselves in case anybody has not listened to the pod before and this is their first episode? If they're still listening for some godforsaken reason.
Look, our 12 listeners have forgotten who we are since we stopped producing content for approximately 2 or 3 months.
Yes. Again, listener, your fault.
When the world is ravaged by climate change, this is the only form of media available to anybody to enjoy. I feel sorry for you people. I had HBO. You have this.
My prompt word is going to be... Oh, I had trouble thinking of one. Glaive.
Whose prompt word? Whose prompt word is this?
Walter's
prompt word.
It's me, Walter. Some would call him the protagonist of the show.
Wrong. Some would be wrong.
Glaive. What else we got?
I, Dan, the real protagonist of the show, my word is spirit.
Have we not used spirit before?
I guarantee you, I don't think actually we have.
I don't think we've used spirit before. We've used
one of those things that's straightforward.
But spirit can mean a couple things, so I'm going to leave it up to your creative discretion.
Right. Spirit's a very flexible word. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, main character.
Yeah, you're welcome for that.
Chessman?
And I am Chessman, the person without whom this podcast would never happen. And in fact, often it doesn't happen.
Because of you,
that's
because
true.
Of me.
Take it away.
My word is smooth.
The hit song by Santana.
Spirit Glaive.
Smooth Spirit Glaive.
Can you plug like the Santana song in here?
Smooth Spirit Glaive is my favorite jam band song. Okay.
Yeah, Jerry Garcia loved that.
We have glaive, which is a weapon.
A pole arm,
Pole arm. Close to the goose arm, but not a goose arm.
Yes.
No. There's no bill hook involved. It's just a glaive.
Very good.
Okay. We have spirit, which can mean vigor. It can mean an essence, like a soul.
Life force.
Or it can be a type of alcohol. It can be a type of alcohol as well.
Alcohol, great point.
A liqueur.
Yeah. And then what was the third one?
Oh, and someone said smooth for some reason?
I think you know.
So there's a river of alcohol where a stone gets smoothed out to the perfect shape for the world-ending glaive that you use to pierce the heavens. And this is the Final Fantasy 15 plot.
I do like the idea of a glaive that, if it's ever swung, ends all life on Earth, and it's been swung like 10 times, and people have to piece together the mythology of it.
No, that's fun. Yeah, there's a history to this world where there are periodic apocalypses because some idiot picks up the glaive, which all the prophecies tell you not to do.
Yeah, the soul-shattering spear.
The safest thing is to stop talking about it after a while, I would think.
Well, no, okay, because there's a few things you could... Okay, so either nobody knows what it is because everyone died who knows what it is, and someone picks it up, it's like, cool sword, and swings it and kills everybody.
I guarantee you a few apocalypses were started because of that exact... Yeah, I guarantee you there were a few oopsies in there.
Yeah.
I made it as a joke, the river of liquor thing. But the smooth, right? What if when you swing the glaive, it causes like seismic activities and like tsunamis like ravage the earth, and it fucking cleanses all the shit off, and it gets real flat, you know,
like a baby's bottom. Yeah,
that's exactly the metaphor that I was going for, but didn't want to say. Thank you.
What if the glaive has the spirit of the apocalypse in it, like as a sentient being?
Okay,
that's kind of fun.
That's just
why would he live in the glaive?
I think he's escaping from another world where they figured out what he was. And people were like, if we kill you, our world doesn't necessarily have to end. And he's like, well, time to get the fuck out of here.
Okay, so a fugitive spirit of apocalypse from another world was somehow trapped in the weapon, the glaive.
Somehow.
All right.
The end glaive. And...
Well, the classic, of course, for trapping an evil spirit in a weapon is that as your final act to kill it, you aren't able to like kill it because it's a immortal spirit. You trap it inside of the weapon.
Right? The hero has to do it.
Right.
Yeah.
The hero from this other planet.
Well, what if it doesn't end the entire world? Like, what if it's something exploitable? Like, what if it's like a reset button, geographically speaking? Like, it wipes out the land.
It could trigger, like, a natural sort of, like, weather phenomenon or, like, a geological phenomenon that, like,
I think
causes
the
destruction.
safest thing to do would be to trigger continental shelf shifts.
Right.
And that would probably, in olden times, kill everybody. In modern times, maybe not everybody. Some people might still survive that.
So he's like an earth spirit. I don't know. I mean, it could be that, I guess.
I do like the idea that wherever you swing, however you swing this this glaive, it like if you were to just swing it horizontally, it would lay the entire landscape low in front of you.
Yeah, that's
or
cool
like
as shit.
A whole mountain range would spring up in front of you.
Right,
It's
it's like a paintbrush almost.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's cool.
I like that a lot. I also like. Oh, go on, Dan.
I mean, it could like if it's like a paintbrush, when you cast a stroke, it may not even be just like the physical damage to the environment that kills people, right? Like it might actually literally like leech people like out of their physical bodies and into this apocalyptic spirit.
It definitely strips the souls of anything in its path when it's swung. It definitely fucks up.
What if there are multiple...
and kills people from vast distances.
I'm sure this has been done, but I can't think of a property that I'm actually ripping off right now. The glaive is one of the architect's tools, and there are multiple, like, paintbrush-esque...
I see. But the glaive is the eraser.
Okay.
And it got left behind on Earth.
No.
Glaive is the eraser, and there might be some other ones. Like, maybe there is a paintbrush one that creates...
Yes.
Maybe, yeah. It could be another...
Yeah, well, you know, like how painters, they have a metal, like a scrape, like a chisel, right? That you scrape your paint with to create that kind of layered effect.
Oh, yeah.
Or to smooth shit out, to smooth out reality.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a canvas knife. Yeah.
Yeah,
that's cool.
That's kind of what its function is. Somehow it ended up here on Earth. It might not be the spirit of the apocalypse. We don't have to run with that. I think it's interesting if we have this ancient relic that's very powerful and very magical, but the setting thus far could be science fiction, actually, that revolves around an ancient medieval relic. and the world has progressed to such an extent that they know about the glaive and are trying to prevent it from destroying everything that they've ever built.
Well, it's a great holy weapon, right? It can destroy their civilization if they don't contain it. So, all right, we have sort of the bones of this, right? We have this world oriented around this weapon.
Right. I mean, what if we think about it in terms of eras? Like, there's sort of a reset button at the end of each era where someone gets a hold of the glaive.
Some guy's kid fucking grab.
The way that these layered the way that these layered apocalypses usually work, right, is they're separated by vast distances of time. Nobody knows what happened in the last era. What if we shortened it here? And like this reset happens generationally almost, or every other generation. So there are people that are alive.
People just want it. Yeah.
There are people that have lived through multiple resets sometimes, and they know what could happen. So there's this scrabble. Like, civilization is destroyed. It rebuilds itself to the point where there's this scrabble to control the glaive, because it can make you the king or the god or whatever.
Well, so if the glaive actually just destroys everything, then that's not realistic. But if the glaive destroys things and then reconstitutes things in a new way,
I think it flattens shit. It basically does destroy what gets built up. It's kind of like a reset, right?
The way that I was looking at it is it either flattens everything or it can create, like, geological changes. Like, it can raise a mountain range out of nothing and shit like that.
Or,
like,
It's a weapon of mass change, right? Like, it is capable of literally ruining someone's entire ecosystems at, like, a stroke. And that's well, like you can destroy the farmlands with like one swing.
What if it reconstitutes matter in a way that draws on the wielder? And maybe it can be conscious or maybe a subconscious. Maybe it is sensitive to what's wrong with you, like your fears, your neuroses, etc. And then when the matter reforms as you swing that reset button, glaive, it just reflects you writ large. Like, you have been rendered in a scar across the continent.
So if you swung the glaive, it would result in a field full of talking dogs, basically, would be...
It is more interesting, instead of having it be an artifact of geological change, it'd be an artifact of matter change. Like, so if somebody with a great avarice for gold swung the glaive, it would destroy a bunch of shit, but it would create a new field of gold field, like mines.
I would like to say, though, that the glaive is powerful enough to destroy pretty much the whole world in one swing, even if you don't intend for it. So if you try to change one thing with it, I think the unseen effects of the glaive, from that point that you struck, they do ripple out, and they do circle around the world multiple times, and eventually the world gets caught up with that.
That's maybe.
I don't like it if a single glaive swing destroys the world. I like the ripple thing because it creates layers of interesting phenomena. I don't like you swing it, everything goes back to zero.
Yeah,
I think that's
if we're talking...
Yeah, you're right.
So if we're just talking about glaive reconstituting matter in an image that draws on the wielder, take a continent on this world where the glaive has been swung 3 times in the past 100 years, once by like a really insecure prince, let's say, so everyone gets small.
The manlet king.
Everyone becomes a bit like his idea of a beta or something.
I like the idea of a world that's like a griefed Minecraft server.
Yeah, that's what this world is. It
really is. Yeah. There was one guy who's like, I love flying islands, and then the next person who swung the glaive was like, I fucking hate flying islands. Like, just like 9/10 of them went away.
I really want airships, and he creates, by swiping this glaive, all these deposits of this mineral that you can use to float matter. And then the other guy's like, this is stupid. And he wipes it away, but there's still, that shit is still in the world in places. It doesn't totally go away.
I also like to think that if the world's been changed so rapidly so many times, certain cultures wouldn't even know what the glaive is before they got wiped out by it. And they would have insane mythologies as to why this is happening, because they aren't aware of the common sense solution that it's a magical pole arm that changes reality, that's doing all of it.
Yeah. That has inside of it imprisoned an otherworldly
Eidolon,
sort of what about a culture that they have embraced the idea of change, where to survive in this world, instead of dedicating themselves ever to a singular craft or trade, they prioritize flexibility above everything else. Like, if you do a single job for more than a season, you're looked down upon.
No.
So it's a culture of people that constantly change what they're doing, basically.
Sure, and I guess it also kind of be like in medieval times after the Black Plague, where there's kind of like a live like there's no tomorrow vibe.
Well, there's demand for labor all the time because whoever's alive has shit they need done. Like, which is what happened after the Black Plague.
Okay, so Griefer World. We've created Griefer World. Are there organized powers that fight for the glaive? That probably happened. Like
I think that they exist,
definitely,
but they're not like cultures or whole nations. They're more like societies that are small scale enough they can persist through these shifts because they know how to hide themselves.
Right, and sometimes they just like die off because they all got hit by a glaive swipe,
or their mountain hideaway literally falls on top of them.
Right.
Yeah. There's like a tribe of like the Hashashin, and like, well, in our next cycle, we will claim the glaive and wipe the world clean.
What if there's a group of people? I like this idea. They try to pick they're trying to establish the most permanent society possible, and so they're trying to pick or scout out where the glaive is to get the furthest away from it at all times, and then also to have an environment that's like the most stable. So like inside of like a mountain that's open topped, so the top can't fall in on them.
And they probably have gatherers who go out and grab stuff.
Yeah, no
from
farming
Glaive's past. No, I think they would. Like they grab stuff. Like if there's temporarily airship material.
If it's a caldera, I like the idea of like terraced farming along the ridge of like this hollow mountain they're in.
Yeah,
like it's very utilitarian. That's
they
cool.
go out and gather ancient texts on like technology, how to like make shit. They're studying old alphabets.
And they're traveling. They always have people like travelers that have gone into the world at large, like traveled across like around the globe to keep track of where the glaive is and to not tell anyone where it is, because telling people the dangers of it is almost as bad as not telling them anything at all.
Actually, they could know where the glaive is if the caldera could move. And if it were atop something that levitated, either technologically or magically. It's a land.
So they can run away from it.
Yeah, they're a hiding hole race. And that way, too, they're always prepared for a changing environment because they encounter it every day. And their scouts have to rendezvous with where this place is going to be. Every time someone leaves this place, too, just due to how the world is, there's no guarantee it's going to be where it says it's going to be when it comes back.
I like that idea. I think it's interesting if, like...
Yeah.
So there was a cycle that created floating islands, right? And this group of people took advantage of that and were like, let's create an actual structure for ourselves that we can use to ride all this out. Yeah. And it is that they hoisted a mountain, a caldera, into the air that they could use to persist as a society on.
Originally, they lifted it up really, really high, but they're like, we can't physically breathe up here. We need to go down a bit lower.
Yeah.
So they're hovering kind of above the ground.
So it's not stupid high.
No, it's not. It's not. And it's far away from wherever this bullshit glaive is.
I like that. I think that's an interesting, like,
they could
not to get too mole people with it, but
They could be called like Housers because they're the only race that's like actually capable now of like building houses and having them not be destroyed by the glaive.
Another world building thought. Maybe there's one continent that's sort of Europe-esque in that there were lots of kingdoms and lots of history there before the glaive arrived. And of course now it's got glaive scars all over. But they still try to keep some continuity. So there's sort of like the shells of what these nations used to be. And they try to fight over the glaive, but they're bad at it.
It's neat to think of the idea of, on that continent, there being almost like bunker-like systems of castles where they have generations of feudal monarchies that still feud against one another, even though they don't really have any power projection at that point.
Oh, yeah, because I think we were alluding to this idea of swinging the glaive, but we were also talking about how maybe sometimes it doesn't cause like huge, like world-rending change. And I think there is this sort of escalation that happens whenever someone finds the glaive, is that when they start out with it, it's making small changes.
Right.
And as they build up and they get confidence in what it can do and what they believe it can do, eventually they swing it and it causes this world-rending thing and consumes them in the process. So I think like this feudal in this feudal land, there would be people who maybe when they got the glaive, it changed hands for a while without anybody actually thinking about like they were just using it as a simple tool of war.
That's interesting. And my conception of the glaive is that it's so absurdly powerful that just one swing will send it like a reality ripple down.
But if you're making if you hold it practically still and you move it down like a centimeter and then a centimeter to the right as you kind of visualize what you want, I think that's how people have been handling it when they've been first starting out, right? Because they know what it can do. Yeah, the glaive scientists.
It's based on your vision, right? It's based on the scale and power of your spirit and your vision for what you want to do with it. If you just want to make a world that's more like verdant and can grow more crops or something, that's different. Like if you have a designed, clear mission for it, you can maybe do something more precise with it. If you just want to fuck some other kingdom up, you're just going to wipe shit out.
Well, what if, here's the thing. Yeah. What if the glaive can't change how people behave? It can change the landscape and it can, and so the worst, so if the glaive encounters something it can't change that's at odds with its directive, that thing gets destroyed. So if a lot of these apocalyptic events that we don't really know what happened, they could have been people trying to change society itself to make it more equitable. No,
I think of the glaive in terms of conservation of matter.
Well, my problem with that is just the fact that if someone picked out that glaive, the moment someone swung it and was like, "I wish for world peace," everyone on the planet's dead immediately. So.
Well, how about this? So, you know how in Dune, if a laser gun hits a shield, it causes a nuclear bomb to go off? What if there are individuals in the world that are ordained by fate, or there are artifacts of extreme power that if the glaive encounters them, it causes extreme change in the area around it outside of what's intended?
Yeah. Other creators' tools. Other tools that are...
Or relics of the creators.
You can't erase the paintbrush,
Right.
And if you try to, it just causes an extraordinary amount of devastation, but it doesn't actually affect... if it's a bunker that these gods have created, right? Because it sounds like we're going more sci-fi than fantasy here. And you try to erase it with the glaive, everything around it for 100 miles is just fucking gone. But that remains. There's these points of constancy.
I think this is very fantasy.
I mean, it's science fiction.
This
is
science pure fantasy. It's so far to me.
I mean, I don't know. We've talked about
it's
technology.
Star Wars, which is fantasy.
Star Wars.
Which is pure fantasy.
Okay,
well, with a sci-fi skin,
There's no science in it.
It's space
we
fantasy.
Haven't mentioned any space faring at all. I think that would kind of break the reality.
Right.
But it scans a world that's been colonized and messed with by powers that are way above whatever it is.
That's the thing.
That's with the tools here.
Yeah, the people who left the glaive here, they may not have been creators of the world. They might not have been well-intentioned. They might genuinely have just wanted to see what we would do with it. To fucking do that shit, you know?
I'm with Walt on that. They scan more like meddlers to me than art.
Yeah, it's not a helpful tool. Even if the gods, the most benevolent gods, were to wield it, you know, who were perfect in intent and spirit, it would fuck up a lot of shit and they wouldn't use it, really.
It's a very useful and helpful tool if you're using it for what it was intended for, which is provoking geological change to prepare a planet for colonization.
Here we go.
But maybe as humans, or whatever the equivalent are in this world, they're too fallible. And so their desires and their worries and their wants feeds into the glaive's effects.
Yeah.
And thus Griefer world.
It's a shame. Yeah.
Damn. It do be all about that glaive. How does smooth fit into this? We've said it smooths stuff out, but we should touch on that briefly.
Well, are we kind of getting to the end of this?
We got enough time for you to explain your prompt word.
Exactly enough time?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Well, how smooth factors into this is that we are now we get to the last one of the latest eras, and someone swings the glaive, and everyone turns bald.
Everyone turns into Smooth Furry for that name.
I have an idea for another faction.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, it's too late.
Yeah. For a non-meme suggestion.
Dan, tell us your idea.
All right, so we've got like two established sort of factions, right? We have like the Savers, like the people in their floating caldera, and then we have like the old Europe kind of thing. What if there's an old world empire that a vestige has existed of from the beginning of this cycle of destruction and rebirth, and they have the imperial lineage of this empire? They have a shard of the glaive, but like a shiv or a knife.
Interesting.
It's very mild in terms of power, but it's still powerful. And they have repeatedly used this as a rallying cry to create a new empire and try to claim the glaive and conquer this planet that they're on. In this constant cycle of a new dynasty rising to power using this shard of the glaive.
And then what, like a 10th of the power of the glaive, or it's like more?
Even like a 20th. Like it's mild. It's by the standards of the weaponry on this planet, it's amazing. By the standards of the glaive, it's not very impressive.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a rallying cry, right? Because it's
maybe with the rally ripples from it, they can maybe on their continent they built some really cool stuff.
It may be every time the glaive is used, the shard changes in terms of what it can do.
Like it echoes the current glaive power.
Like the one we talked about before was the guy Midasing a field. What if it became a thing where like you could use it, becomes gold, and you can use it to create gold by like touching
that makes a lot of sense. It just does whatever Daddy Glaive does, but in the more manageable
It's
form.
this super powerful fragment of a super powerful magic item, and there's an entire imperial dynasty centered around control of it and trying to make an empire to claim the actual glaive.
And just imagine the havoc that it would cause if you could turn anyone bald at a single swipe.
God damn it.
Or give anyone a luscious mane of hair.
It can't create. It can only... I guess it could actually.
It can only smooth.
Yeah, there's a bald guy who, because he can't give himself hair with the glaive because it would kill him, he instead removes everyone else's hair.
It would kill him to give himself hair?
Swing the glaive at yourself. Swing the glaive at yourself. It definitely consumes part of your soul.
But what if like you just disappear? You get one swing of the glaive, and then you're gonzo.
And then the glaive,
the glaive is taking your
sucks you up.
Spread it out in its giant arc and swing.
Yeah. Yeah, and you become the world.
Yeah, like you become the change into whatever glaive effects, glaivening.
Yeah.
happen.
Damn.
There's probably
I really liked this.
Really apocalyptic continent, the Australia of this world.
Australia always gets it in our podcast. They got golfed on.
To be clear, they deserve it. They deserve it.
Like an actual, like, terrible, evil, mentally ill soul took up the glaive and swung, and it's just like hellscape.
Yeah, it's really bad.
I think that would exist.
The animals there are really big.
Maybe a really bad prince from that empire got his hands on it. He swung, but he was like a real Habsburg motherfucker. And
I think it'd be cool if there were a continent of dinosaurs.
Yeah, and an 8-year-old like Minecraft
dinosaurs.
player makes dinosaurs.
He's got God mode. He's just spawning shit in.
No, I think at some point a child would swing the glaive. That would happen.
Stop! Let me go!
Well, folks, that's our show.
Yeah, Walt
like
has to
this
leave,
episode,
so he's ending the episode.
That is what's happening. You can subscribe to us on your podcasting service of choice to get new episodes every other Saturday. If you want, go ahead and write us a review on iTunes and share us with all your world-building friends. It really helps us out. Our art is courtesy of the talented and wonderful Shell Tor at Jovial Paradox on Twitter. You can tweet at us too at LoreLads or send us spirited hate mail at 30minuteworlds@gmail.com. Thanks for listening, and as always, happy world.